welcome to another episode of Into and or Across the Void. Actually, I haven't decided what I'm going to name this. You'll know next time I make another one of these videos in this segment, and the title sequence is different for these videos. But until then, I don't know which one I'm going to name it. It's not even that deep, but hey. This is a segment where I talk about things that are not horror focused. And it's very rare that I'll do this, but it's usually when something speaks to me that is in a different kind of genre, whether it be action, adventure, foreign, or drama. Probably not comedy. Comedy, just, I've mentioned before, doesn't work on me. I find nothing funny, and I'm also not funny. So it just, I don't know. Comedy's really hit or miss. Like, I'm looking forward to seeing the drama. I think that one's going to hit for me. But you just never know. It's really hard. I love Psycho Gorman. I think that's fucking hilarious. I love that film. But I haven't laughed since The Great Age. So I don't know. But in this segment, we're going to talk about anything other than horror, only if it means something to me. So for this episode, I want to speak about a show that you're probably getting some marketing on. You're probably seeing it. You might see it through your reels, and it might seem like a big deal, and that's because it is. And I'm here to tell you why. So the show that we're going to talk about is called Bloodhounds. It's a South Korean drama about two boxers who take on the underworld of the criminal empire. Both seasons. The first one came out in 2022. I loved it, and I've shown multiple people. And season 2 came out, and I binged that bitch in 2 days. And that was only because I had to do a video, I had to work out, I had to eat, and I wanted to see some sunlight. But otherwise, I would have finished all 8 episodes right then and there. The show is a culmination of all the things that I like when it comes to hero archetypes and writing. But before we get into that, I have to express how much I love, 1, Indonesian cinema, and 2, Korean cinema, as well as Japanese and Chinese cinema, but particularly Indonesian and Korean, because I find that their writing styles are very distinct. Personally, my love for this style of filmmaking came when I saw 2 specific films. As a young lad, I've always dabbled in the occasional foreign film, and I dabbled a hell of a lot into martial arts films as much as I did horror. We're talking Tony Jaa's The Protector, Ong Bak, Romeo Must Die, Jackie Chan films as well, like Rush Hour, a lot of Jet Li stuff, The One, right? All the stuff that we grew up on that's like, you turn on the TV and it's either on TBS, on USA, or some fucking network, and you're like, yeah, that's it. But when you get older, you start craving more. You want denser, right? You realize that what America did with that style of filmmaking is take away all the cultural importance and substance and density and just threw it into American films, right? And when you're older, you kind of seek more. You want to go to the source of that fountain, and you want to explore more. And I remember 2011 really solidifying my love for Indonesian filmmaking when I saw The Raid. And The Raid was a turning point for me in terms of how I looked at action films. I think that nothing in the action sphere had such an impact on me like The Raid did. If you haven't seen The Raid, best action film, in my humble opinion, in my pathetic, nobody opinion, best action film to ever do it. Now, a lot of people, we grew up on Die Hard, Lethal Weapon, Rambo. A lot of people will say those are the defining action films, and I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to argue about that. I think that there is a nostalgia and there's an emotion. But I think when you consider what the best is, you have to consider how the genre's evolved and what it offers. And I think that when The Raid came out, directed by Gareth Evans, by the way, who is not Indonesian, but moved to Indonesia when he was married, what that style of filmmaking did, what he did with that film, was introduce to the mainstream an idea that not every action sequence had to be fucking cut, right? Like, if it wasn't for films like this, if it wasn't for films like John Wick, influenced by films like this, we would not have movies like Atomic Blonde, Nobody, Novocaine, The Fall Guy, Bullet Train. These films that were were a direct consequence of having films like The Raid come out and say, we want something different. We're tired of waiting. Here it is. And us going, wow. And the irony is that instead of just accepting it for the beauty that it is, you get a director and you tell them, hey, can you remake The Raid? And the American version of The Raid has been in development hell for probably over 10 years now. That says something. That you can't get a movie as simple as The Raid right says something. So Indonesian filmmaking and South Korean filmmaking, I think, are a cut above the rest. And just to prove how much of a fan I am, I go out of my way to own every South Korean movie that I love. And this franchise right here, the Roundup, is like what Lethal Weapon is to people who grew up in the 80s, to me. If you haven't seen the Roundup movies, please, 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 please do your homework and go watch them. You're not prepared. Don Lee, you might know him from Train to Busan, as also one of the heroes in the Eternals. I can't wait to see him in more stuff. America needs to know more of him and see more of him. And he also is in a video game coming up that the name eludes me. But anyway, that long-winded introduction to saying this will be a long video, so bear with me, I'm sorry, is to say that Bloodhounds is... And you know what? Fuck it. We're going to go back a little bit. Divine Fury. Now, I don't know if you guys have seen one of my recent movie reviews. I spoke about exorcism films and how, ever since The Exorcist, I hold, which is when I was 8. So ever since The Exorcist, I've held exorcism films to huge scrutiny. The standards are set so high, and I defend the genre because I think it's genuinely terrifying and it has a lot to say. But I'm always burned, and I'm always upset, and I'm always sad that nothing lives up to, and nothing ever will live up to, the best movie ever made. But this very director of Bloodhounds made a movie in 2019 that I own that I really, really like. It's called Divine Fury. And it's a film that has managed to do the most seamless version of a martial arts film with an exorcism film put into one. It's magnificent, and I will be reviewing it for you guys just to sell you on it. But that's just to say, they really know how to make something that seems silly and unoriginal and confidently create a masterpiece. So that goes without saying, I'm a fan. And if you are a fan of South Korean dramas, action, adventure, put this on your radar. So the show follows two boxers. One is super, super humble down to a fault, but he can beat the ever-living fucking hair follicles off of you. His name is Kim Jong-woo. He meets another boxer, Woo Jin, who is a cocky fighter a la Mayweather. Like, he's cocky, but he's humble. And in a match that they have together, the cocky one loses to the humble one. And somehow from this comes a beautiful bromance that is to be written across the books as a representation of what bromance looks like. The movie follows our lead trying to prevent his mother's business from being destroyed and her being harmed by a group of loan sharks who loaned her money to build her business. And from here, fall into this exploration of the criminal underbelly and the criminal underworld of Korea. But what's really enticing and what's really fucking awesome about the show is that you have two guys that are just boxers, man. They're just boxers. Nothing super extravagant in terms of their origin. They're just humble boxers. This is what their life is. They love the sport. And through this unexpected friendship that comes from a rival loss, they develop a bromance so strong that they both work together to keep Kim Jong-woo's mother safe. And we meet a myriad of interesting characters. We meet a loan shark who is actually trying to do good instead of bad. He gives out loans and he makes sure that they're payable. He is trying to do something that other rival loan sharks look down upon, right? So like the idea of these assholes putting out loans is so that they can inflate the interest over time, and eventually you can't pay. What happens next is they take your business and they monetize that. So it's a really fucked up scheme, and it's also a very grounded scheme because this shit happens every day, everywhere, all at once. But what's interesting is that these boys who, you know, outside of the ring, they live a life of no conflict, get thrown into this world of such extreme violence that their love for boxing becomes more than just a hobby or a means to finding some kind of sense of discipline or control or inner peace. It becomes something they have to weaponize to help those who can't defend themselves. In a lot of ways, it is a vigilante story. And these boys get thrust into this world that they have no knowledge of and learn from these other colorful characters. They consistently have the odds weighed against them. And it always comes down to one fucking thing. And that's their fucking fist. And it's so interesting to see these boys go from lacking confidence and security in this world that they're being thrown into to becoming confident dudes who have to do what they do best, which is just kick ass. The fight sequences in this show from season 1 to season 2 are so intricate. You can see the opponents think through what they're going to do as they're doing it. You can see the way that their inner mechanics are telling them, this is the time to counter, this is the time to dodge, this is the time to throw a hook or an uppercut, this is the time to slide through. And our main characters, both of them, you know, they're boxers. They're big, they don't kick. But everybody else is using knives, everybody else is using all different types of combat techniques that they're not used to. So they're solely depending on their skills as boxers, and they utilize and extend their knowledge through these experiences in such a way that feels like you're learning with them, you're upgrading with them, you're going Super Saiyan every fucking scene, every fight scene. One of my favorite scenes is in season 2 when Kim Jong-woo is walking into a building where they're doing illegal betting and blackjack, and everyone pulls out knives. He has this inner thought, right? That if he puts his hands up, the knife is going to pierce him. So after he has that thought, he just drops his hands down. And it becomes about maneuvering around these jabs and around these strikes, these knife strikes, that is just so... I love when shows do that. It's not just about the fight sequence, it's about the thought process. Because then the thought process doesn't just become the thought process of the character. Then all of a sudden, you've got an insight into how the writer decided to move in this scene. But it also gives you a point of view as to the choreography, where the camera's going to go, how's the camera going to move. When I worked for Marvel for about 3 years, I was around a lot of stunt guys, and that did a lot of stuff for a lot longer than I did. I barely got to dabble, and I'm still working towards it. But these guys, this is their life. But what's really interesting is watching these stunt guys grab a camera and move through a scene in a way that the camera is an extension of what their body would be doing if they didn't have the camera. If you look at movies like Extraction, the Chris Hemsworth special operators film on Netflix, both of them, the choreography and the direction, the director, first off, is the stunt double for Captain America, Chris Hemsworth, in the OG Captain America movies. So he already has an understanding of how to move, which is why the movie sequences, the fight sequences in Extraction are so phenomenal, is because you have someone who understands movement. And when you understand movement, you understand how to implement the camera. And I think that in that implementation and in this show, you were able to capture something that otherwise in an American film would have just been a static shot or a myriad of cuts. And again, not those other films that I mentioned withstanding, like Novocaine, The Fall Guy, Nobody, Atomic Blonde, but you get this sense of maneuverability that you wouldn't otherwise get in these creative shots, you wouldn't get in an American film because they just understand movement. And this goes for all of season 2. Having finished just season 2 a couple days ago and rewatching it again, the extension of the knowledge from part 1 is so much more inflated in this one. Season 2 moves at such a different pace. The fight sequences are bigger. Of course, the narrative is a lot more ambitious, and it hits all the marks that it needs to keep us solely focused on this cast that has grown since part 1. We have a lot of familiar faces. We have a lot of familiar faces from part 1 coming over to this second season. We also have a villain who showed our boys some serious hands, and he comes back in season 2 with a bit of a grudge. And not only do you have the new villain who is trying to put together an illegal dark web affiliated cage fighting company, and he's trying to sell it to the Americans, but you also have this brute from the first season who is looking for his revenge. There's this sense of building tension towards that inevitable fight, and when it happens, it doesn't disappoint. It really doesn't. The brutality behind the fight sequences is genuine. The sense of the limitations of the human body and how tired they get in the middle of these fights, it really feels like this is beyond choreography. These fights feel brutal. I think that if you're going to have a show where the star is the choreography, you need to be able to sell it like it isn't a dance. I think one of the greatest feats of John Wick is that in part 4, which is almost a 3-hour epic, the fight sequences do feel ballet focused, right? They feel there's a ballad to them, and they do feel hyper choreographed. And I think that is the only film that earned its right to feel less like a fight and more like a dance. Because by the 4th one, we're just getting so crazy with the action sequences that it calls for more intricate, safe, cautious practices, longer shots, wider shots, more intricate sequences, more movements, right? So where 1 felt way more grounded and more brutal, 4 just turns into, the avatar of that franchise, where we are ambitious in terms of scale and camera work. And at a certain point, it lost a little bit of the grit and became a dance, which I don't mind because they really shot for the stars with those films. But I think a lot of films after that started feeling like a lot of these films became choreography. They started to feel choreographed. And what this show has managed to do, along with many other Korean shows and films that I will talk about, is make it feel like it's real and there's stakes. And there's a sense of impending doom behind a single punch or any death. And I think that's just what this show does so well. On top of having lovable characters, the theme of family is strong here. And it's not corny like Fast and the Furious. There's a genuine sense of progression that these characters come together, and it's earned. And not just because, hey, they were in the last season and now they're coming back and we're family, but because every single one of these characters has had something at stake, something they've either lost or gained. And it has built a sense of honor towards our main leads that really makes us feel like there's a genuine family here. And you care about the side characters too. You care about the cops that are showing up. You care about all the other detectives that are forming the investigation. You care about the memories that are referenced from season 1 in the second season. I think if you're in the mood for the catharsis of violence and a good story and a good set of characters that you can root for and villains that you can be enthralled by, American films tend to throw that potential away. You don't get a lot of interesting characters in terms of villains because the heroes has to survive, has to win. And in this, the villain is fun to watch, man. I think that any script is as good as their villain. And I think that the villains here, while nothing to write home about, are fully fleshed out characters with history and a sense of oomph about them, that they believe in what they're doing, that they're confident in their misdeeds. And that makes it easy for you to root against them. But also, it makes it enthralling for you to go, I wonder what the fuck they're going to do next. And I just think that this show just has a culmination of all the best elements. And I'm sure there's cons. There are cons, and I'm sure that I can find a myriad. There's some fight sequences I wish had been longer, because goddamn, they're just that great. If you're anything like me and you've gone through my videos and you feel like we have common ground in what I like and dislike, then I think that you will enjoy this. Hence why I'm making a video about it. I do intend on doing a couple videos on Korean horror films that I think you guys would love. One of the next movies that I want to talk about is I Saw the Devil, which I know a lot of you have probably seen, but it's such a powerful movie that I just want to be able to have it in my log that I talked about it, and hopefully some of you guys will listen. So that's my recommendation for Bloodhounds if you're on the market for a show. I'm very picky about the shows I watch. They take a lot of time. It's a lot of commitment. There was a point in my life where I was watching show after show after show after show, whether it was good or bad, and I'd just have to finish it. As you get older, you get more meticulous about what it is you want to watch, what it is that you want to spend time consuming. And when I finish a show, it's because it's damn good. I'm thinking about doing a review on the first 4 episodes of Daredevil, by the way. I'm a big fan of the show. Been watching it since Netflix, and I think Matt Murdock is such a great character. So I think I might do a review on the first 4 episodes. See what you guys think if you guys are watching it so far. I know a lot of us are. Hell yeah. I have some pros and cons in terms of where I'm at with Daredevil. I'm loving it, but it definitely has some weaknesses in the narrative department. The action has been great, but hopefully, and I've seen from other reviewers that it really kicks off after episode 3. So now that we're done with the setup, let's see what tonight's episode has in store for us. Anyway, that is all. Thank you guys for listening. I will always say thank you. You guys are interactive, and that's just really cool to see. And it humbles me. So thank you. 92 subscribers, close to 100. That seeing a new subscriber never gets old, man. It's just nice to see that the community is growing, and it's nice to see that you guys are as in love with filmmaking as I am. So it's really cool to see it. I appreciate you guys. As always, I will see you at the movies. One day I'm going to say that, and it's going to be true. We're all just going to show up at the movies. I'm going to rent AMC rental screen. We're going to get all 92 of you in there. All right, guys. That's enough of me. Thank you for showing up. I appreciate you.